Michael Thomas, straight zeros. He was a donut. He didn't play a single snap due to miscommunications and timetable issues with his surgery. However, the missed games didn't count against his 3-season par stats. Nearly 70% of the time over the last 3 seasons, Michael Thomas scored at least 15 and a half PPR fantasy points in games that he played. 15.5 PPR fantasy points is the amount that you need for your flex position in your best ball tournaments. You want your flex spot to get 15 points. Michael Thomas is the wide receiver 24 because that's where he's going right now in the middle of the 5th round. Could he be a zero again this year with more drama? Maybe he tweets out something or he pushes his timeline once again, but he could return to form as a top 5 wide receiver. At least Thomas has shown the ability to achieve 24.7 PPR points. Whereas players drafted around him right now, they can't access that type of ceiling. Over the last 3 seasons in games Michael Thomas has played, he's hit 24.7 fantasy points, almost 30% of those games. Once again, 24.7 fantasy points is the amount of fantasy points you want for your wide receiver 1 spot in these best ball tournaments. If you go higher than that, then you can afford to scale back a few other positions, but 24.7 is about the number that you want to be filling in and being highly competitive. Whereas Juju Smith-Schuster with an ADP of wide receiver 27, so he's going 3 wide receiver spots and 3 picks after Michael Thomas at 58th overall, has hit 24.7 fantasy points, less than 5% of his games over the last 3 seasons. And we know Juju struggled with injuries. Michael Thomas has struggled with his injuries. So they may not be the exact same situation, but we're talking about vastly different players with significantly different upsides. Thomas has been 6 times more likely to be a wide receiver 1 over the last 3 seasons. And look, you may be getting a solid wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 with Juju Smith-Schuster, especially now that he's on the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill is not there. But Michael Thomas has proven to access a ceiling Juju simply hasn't shown. And in fact, we saw a similar scenario unfold over the last few seasons with Antonio Brown, an older elite wide receiver with drama problems who commands a hefty target share. And he's a league winner given the late ADP. And there's more, I would say, that had gone on with Antonio Brown than with Michael Thomas. Like Antonio Brown left games early. He exited due to injury. He took his shirt off and ran around the stadium. Aside from that, he switched teams. He moved from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Oakland Raiders for a hot second, actually a cold second because he froze his feet, to the New England Patriots, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, handling these legal situations, working up the pecking order, learning the playbook. All of that being said, Antonio Brown still accessed a ceiling of wide receiver 6 or better for a weekly finish about 11% of the time. He was accessing that elite ceiling twice as much as Juju Smith-Schuster in that same time frame. Michael Thomas may not be as discounted as Antonio Brown over the last few seasons, but let's look at other players drafted close to but ahead of Michael Thomas right now. Jerry Jeudy. We're going to shift into a different perspective because Jeudy had a tough year last year. He wasn't accessing ceilings, but even if you scale back to not wide receiver 6, but wide receiver 15, mid-tier wide receiver 2, over his career, Jerry Jeudy's par of getting wide receiver 15 is only 6%. 6%, maybe a tad better than Juju Smith-Schuster. Michael Pittman going ahead of Michael Thomas, his par of getting wide receiver 15 is about 16%. So it is higher than Jerry Jeudy, but still nowhere close to where Michael Thomas's is over the last 3 years. Michael Thomas has shown to access wide receiver 15 in the games that he's played 44% of the games over the last 3 seasons. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, but he's been injured, he's been out. You can't replace Michael Thomas's upside later in the draft in the ways that you can replace Jerry Jeudy and Michael Pittman's productions. It may be jarring for you to hear this, but there is a wide receiver going in the 10th round that over the last 3 years has a higher par of scoring wide receiver 15, and that's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's gone higher than Michael Pittman, higher than Jerry Jeudy, higher than Juju Smith-Schuster, 17.4%. Marquez Valdes-Scantling needs to be on all of your best ball rosters. He's changing teams, sure, but he's making the rare lateral move from a Hall of Fame quarterback to what we expect is another Hall of Fame quarterback, and from Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes. But what I'm getting at, bringing it back, Marquez Valdes-Scantling can replace the upside of Michael Pittman or Jerry Jeudy or Juju Smith-Schuster rounds and rounds later. You can't replace the type of upside that Michael Thomas has shown. He's irreplaceable.